Don't confuse me. Don't confuse me. I'm a bit thick, me, you know. Ask the Hosts, episode 28. I'm Joe.
I'm Popey.
I'm Mark.
I'm Martin.
Hello, chaps. It's a Linux Matters special.
It certainly is.
The idea of the show is very simple. You send any questions to us, show@askthehost.com, and we answer them. The catch is they can be about anything except Linux and open source. Before we get going, a quick thank you to people who support us with PayPal and Patreon. We really appreciate that. You can learn more at askthehost.com/support, and patrons get these episodes 2 weeks before everyone else. All right, Smiling Monkey 666 says, you can go back to a single performance of any music artist or group. Festivals are allowed, but you can only see a single performance. This can be one you've already seen or one you've always wanted to see. Who are you going to see? Very specific question there.
Can I have two?
I don't think you can, but
they qualify differently. One I didn't see and one that I did see.
All right.
The one that I never got to see that I would have loved to have seen was Juliette Lewis and the Licks were at the Isle of Wight Festival in 2010. And at that time, my wife and our friends, we would go to the Isle of Wight Festival every year. And I was potentially going to go, but also my wife was heavily pregnant with our daughter at the time and was days away from giving birth. And I was stuck between do I go and see Juliette Lewis at the Isle of Wight Festival or do I stay at home in case baby action starts happening? So I never did get to see Juliette Lewis at the Isle of Wight Festival, and I would have loved to have seen that.
I'm pretty sure that you've told that story before as one of your biggest regrets in life.
Yeah, it truly is.
I regret having to hear it again. That's my biggest regret in life.
Well, the fact that I've brought this up twice with the opportunity to do so tells you just, how sorry I am I never got to see it.
Mm.
And the other one is a performance I did get to see, which was Amit and Dweezil Zappa at a community centre somewhere in Milton Keynes, somewhere approximately in 1992, and is probably one of the standout rock performances I have ever seen. It was a tiny little community centre, probably only 100 people in the place. And they did one of the, if you're not familiar, Amit and Dweezil Zappa are the sons of Frank Zappa. And one of the things they're famous for is doing these rock montages of just very quick changing, sort of a blistering run through of rock greats woven together very, very cleverly. And they did one of these performances and it went on for about half an hour and it was just absolutely epic. And I would love to go back and see that again.
Mine is really boring and predictable. Jimi Hendrix at Woodstock. It just seems like the obvious answer to me. I'd just love to have seen that live.
Meh.
As a former guitarist, I'm surprised you said meh to that, Martin.
I feel I've seen so much footage and heard so many recordings from that performance, I don't need to go back there and see it in the moment.
Yeah, that is a fair point.
I think I can count on one hand the number of live music performances I've seen in my life. It's not a thing I value greatly, but the one that I went to first was when I was 16, 17 years old, and it was in London Docklands, and it was Jean-Michel Jarre, and I absolutely loved it. It poured down with rain the whole time we were there, but it was just a cracking time, and I have lovely memories whenever I either watch the live video on YouTube or I listen to the Docklands Live soundtrack or album, and I would definitely go back again. And I would choose a different place to stand. That is all I would do, is have a different vantage point, because I could see pretty much naff all, other than the projections that were going on the buildings opposite in the Docklands. We couldn't see Jarre or Hank Marvin or any of the other performers, really. And we just stood still the whole time. So yeah, I would move somewhere else and see that again.
So was this at a time when it was like peak Jean-Michel Jarre, when he was sort of at the top of his game?
His entire life is peak Jean-Michel Jarre. There is no low point in Jean-Michel Jarre's career. They're all bangers.
the songs are all good, but there was a period where his shows were just these epic light shows that dominated sort of, the pop landscape at the time.
Yeah, he did a bunch of them. It was a guy at college who got the tickets for me, and just me and him went and just stood in the rain listening to these weird electronic songs, and a guy with this weird light harp thing or whatever it is he had, speaking his weird French-English thing. It was great. I properly enjoyed that. Maybe I should have gone to some more musical performances over the years, but I don't actually enjoy them that much, and they'd have to go some to top that one for me.
Unlike Popey, I have quite a few to choose from. I've been going to gigs basically since I was a wee lad, as often as I can, which is unfortunately slightly less often these days. So yeah, I had to do a bit of thinking because I've been to some really good gigs and some really special sort of one-off things as well, which, weren't like a tour. They were just like you were there or you weren't. But I think the thing that I would go back to is the last gig I went to, which was Bruce Dickinson solo at the Kentish Town Forum. And that's because I started listening to Bruce Dickinson's solo albums when I was about 14 or 15, and he didn't play a solo gig since I started listening to his music. He did, I think, a best of album, and he did another studio album, which he didn't tour, but in between he was playing with Iron Maiden and touring with Iron Maiden. So I never got to see the songs that I grew up to love performed live. And then suddenly he decided he was going to release another solo album and do a tour, which wasn't just playing the new album, but was putting a band together and playing, the classics. So I got to see that, and it was absolutely spot on, exactly what I wanted it to be. The atmosphere was amazing. And, having seen him several times with Iron Maiden in like the biggest venues possible, at festivals, at stadiums and all of that, then seeing him in like a 2,000 capacity venue with just people who were there for exactly what I was there for was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, you can't beat seeing big acts in small venues. I talked about Amit and Dweezil Zappa, maybe not a big act. Probably many people haven't heard of them, but did see Mr. Big back at the same sort of time. Once at the Hammersmith, and then the next night saw them again at the Cambridge Corn Exchange, where there was like 600 people there, and it was so much better.
Well, I'm going to change my answer from Jimi Hendrix because that's too boring. I'm going to go back to 1998, and I'm going to be in the audience for my first gig. And I don't mean the first gig I attended, I mean the first gig I played. And you're going to have to strap me down because it's going to be so cringe I'm going to want to walk out. But I'm going to sit through that entire thing and I'm going to watch myself play really badly.
Did you enjoy it though?
At the time, it was great.
Did you think you were top of the world?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a rock star. Still do, deep down.
I might change my answer and say I want to go back and see John O'Bacon on stage in Severed Fifth, who I did get to see in California many years ago, and that was a very weird experience with all my co-workers standing around in the audience looking up at him going, "Rah!" And I was like, what is this?
All right, Jan asks, what's the scariest moment you ever encountered while travelling?
I got salmonella poisoning when I was away once, and I have never been so ill. At that time, I had never been so ill or in as much pain that I'd experienced. It was absolute misery, and then having to get back home feeling like that is the only time all of the porter services to ferry a sick person around has been wheeled out at my disposal. But I was groaning and moaning in pain the whole way home for days, and went into a hazmat room in Stoke Mandeville Hospital in order to be isolated and repaired. It was misery.
I was going to say that doesn't sound that scary, but then going into hospital, that is pretty scary.
Yeah, straight off the plane at Gatwick, and then from Gatwick all the way around the M25, and then all the way down the M3, and then all the way up to Stoke Mandeville. And then, into an isolation unit for 2 weeks. It was not good.
What did you eat?
Courgettes.
What?
That That's not what I was expecting, although it might have that effect on me. I hate courgettes.
How did you eat them?
I think it was more to do with the fact that the courgettes had been cooked next to raw chicken. And that was the actual cause of the salmonella. It was horrible.
I was visiting a friend who was living just outside Barcelona, and he was living in an apartment in a plaza with quite an old lift. And there were 4 of us in the lift, and there was room for 4 people standing up in the lift and nothing else. And halfway up, the power went out.
Oh, no.
And yeah, we were all standing in this lift, and there was an emergency call button, but all it did was ring a bell. There was no phone call to someone on the other end who'd come. It just rang a bell so other people in the building knew you were stuck.
You really want that button to sort of like put a forklift wedge underneath the lift that you're in and clamp all the brakes on. And
yeah.
How long were you stuck in there for then?
Well, we sort of waited for a few minutes and, tried not to have a panic attack. And then we just had a go at the doors and we were on a floor. So I was extremely hesitant to get out because having heard horror stories of people trying to climb out of stopped lifts and then plummeting and getting chopped in half and things like that. But yeah, we just basically jumped and made it. So it was fortunately a very contracted, scary experience, but that is the scariest experience I've had while traveling.
I've got 2 stories. Both of them involve dogs. Now, I don't actively dislike dogs, certainly well-behaved ones, but shall we say free dogs, I'm not so fond of. So the first one was in the south of France, must have been 25 years ago. And I was staying with my girlfriend's family at the time. And I went out at night, being the night owl that I am, and walked into the village to see what was going on. And then an hour or so later, walked back. And about halfway down the road, there was just a pack of wild dogs barking at me. And I just didn't know what I was going to do. Every time I kind of got anywhere close to them, just ruff, 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 just barking at me like mad, and me just running away scared. I thought, well, I guess I'm just stuck in the village all night then until it gets light. But then a kind gentleman came past and gave me a lift past them, which was very, very nice of him.
What, on like the back of a scooter or?
I'm just imagining Mr. Bean's holiday with you chugging along on a moped at 1 mile an hour.
No, thankfully it was a car, so I was nice and safe from the free dogs. The second time was in Sicily. So I went there on my own, just, I don't know, for reasons, in January, off-season, got a nice cheap flat to stay in. Hired a car, driving on the wrong side of the road. I was really just flustered. Drove from the airport to the Airbnb that I'd booked. And I couldn't quite find the house. And I thought, I think this is it, but there was all gates there. And then I get out of the car and sure enough, a pack of wild dogs barking at me.
Do you keep a pack of sausages in your pocket with you everywhere you go? Is that what it is?
Maybe I should stop doing that. Yeah, good idea. But thankfully I found the guy and he came out and, that's where I learned that they're called free dogs rather than wild dogs. Because I asked him, who owns these dogs? He said, they're free dogs.
I'll take 2. Thanks.
Yeah.
So I have 3 options for you to pick from. I won't give you all 3. I won't force you to listen to all 3 of my scary travel options, but I'll let you choose, but I'll masquerade them slightly. 1 is red tomato sauce, 1 is yellow mustard, and 1 of them is brown sauce. Which one would you like?
I can only hope the brown sauce is the story I'm familiar with.
Yeah, go on, let's risk it. Let's go for brown sauce then.
It's not the one you're thinking.
Oh.
So I took Claire to London to the theatre many years ago. I think the kids were quite young. Or maybe we didn't even have kids. It was a very long time ago. It was when Grease, the musical, was on, early days. So probably a long time ago before we had kids. And I got us a box at the theatre and wore a nice suit and she had a lovely dress on. And before we got to the theatre, we went to a restaurant around the corner. And I can't remember what I had. Might have been an escalope of veal or something like that. And then we went to the theatre and the performance started, the musical started, and we were getting on down with the music from Claire's favourite childhood movie, Grease. And I felt a little bit of an icky tummy. And so I went to the bathroom and that was an adventure because I didn't realise how far away the bathroom was from the almost royal box in that theatre. But I made it, and I got back, and I had to do 2 more of those trips in the theatre that evening while Claire was enjoying the performance. Anyway, to the travel, we got on the train to come home from London, and we got back to Farnborough, which is where we live, and there's a taxi rank. And I said to Claire, I cannot get in a taxi. I cannot sit down. We need to walk home. So we walked from the town centre to the nearest dwelling that I had access to, which was my mum's house. And when we were within about 500 yards, I said, you are going to have to clear a path. I'm going to give you my keys while we're walking, and you are going to open the front door and straight up the stairs and open the bathroom door and make sure everything is arranged perfectly for me to make a straight line. And I did actually make it, and everything was fine. But it was a very tense walk home. It was about 25 minutes, half an hour walk from the station to my mum's house. And then everything was fine after that. But yes.
She's a lucky lady.
Isn't she just? Still here 25 years later.
I can't believe that my worst fears were realised with the dinosaurs.
Should have gone with mustard, mate. Should have gone with mustard.
I'm constantly surprised that it's another story about when Popey nearly shit himself.